As Mauricio introduced, I am Mónica Crespo. I am a litigation lawyer, and I'm frustrated by the current legal research experience, and that is why I am also the co-founder of Popularis. Popularis is an NGO with the objective of improving the quality of justice in Central America by making legal research simple and accessible. So in Central America, we have a problem that is worse than the rest of Latin America by comparison, and that is that legal research is downright inefficient. Why? Because most judgments, which are the best available resource, not only to interpret the law, but also for legal research, are inaccessible since they're stored in physical libraries ordered by date. And now a little bit of stats. What is the status quo right now? In Panama, where we started operations, only 1.7% of the judgments are online. This amounts to approximately 800,000 judgments lost in the past 6 years. And we're talking about Panama, which is a relatively small country. This is equivalent to $800 million in investment wasted. And believe me, Panama is in dire need of investment to improve its judiciary. So, as I was saying, most judgments are stored on physical libraries ordered by date. Now, imagine doing legal research on a library ordered by date that looks a little bit like this. It's a nightmare, and I can attest to that as a litigation lawyer. So it is virtually impossible for you to find the results that you're looking, and if you're lucky enough to find them, it takes time, and it's gonna take you, it's gonna cost you greatly. As a consequence, lawyers, even justices and judges and law students are forced to access only that 1.7% of judgments online. But judgments are the most valuable resource to adequately interpret the law, even in civil law systems. And that is why it is the most valuable resource to perform legal research. And why is it very important? Well, because first, they enable judges to benefit from past interpretations instead of having to reinvent every interpretation on any new case. It also enables lawyers to adequately advise their clients, and it enables law students to learn about the current interpretation trends. So, as I was mentioning, online access to judgments has dire effects, and the first one is that it obstructs legal research. But the second one, which is also very important and affects our justice systems, is that it affects legal certainty. It affects legal certainty because judges are forced to reinterpret the law on each new case. And as a consequence, as you could imagine, interpretations from one case to another and from one judge to another vary greatly, affecting legal certainty. Third, it affects accountability. Why? Because lack of transparency regarding judgments creates the perfect environment for corruption. And it also prizes mediocrity, since judges are not held to account for their decisions. And finally, it impedes the emergence of legal tech projects, especially those related to litigation and legal research. I'm going to stop there just a second to make emphasis on this point, because any new project that wants to emerge and scale their product to the Latin American market, it's gonna have a lot of issues if judgments are not found online. So this is something that we're also aiming at. But in general terms, lack of digital access of judgments first hampers the rule of law in Central America, and second, as I mentioned, it obstructs innovations that improve access to justice by making legal research simple. That is why we created Popularis. In Popularis, we digitalize and provide online access to judgments through an intuitive platform and a structured database. We created Popularis to completely change the current legal research experience. And how does it work? Right now, we have a beta product launched, and it works in a pretty straightforward manner. First, the users submit queries. These queries can be either full text or the judgment's metadata or attributes. Second, a search algorithm finds the results, in our database. And third, the results are displayed and the user may click on the relevant judgment. But behind this relatively simple product or search tool, there's a lot of work behind that I'm gonna explain a little bit more about. So how do we achieve this? Well, in 5 main steps. The first step is that we obtain the judgment, which can be either from a digital source, that would be the 1.7% of judgments found digitally, or physically, directly from the courts or from our partners. After we obtain the judgment, and if it's a non-digital judgment, we convert the image to text. This is relatively simple through an OCR and later through a human review that detects any errors and corrects them. And then the interesting part occurs. We process the text of the judgment through an algorithm that we made in-house. And this algorithm performs 3 main functions, which are that first, it reads the text of the judgment and it classifies the text. Second, it standardizes non-standard content for the database to work properly. And finally, it interprets the information. So it interprets the information and extracts non-implicit data from the judgment. This would be, for example, the type of process, the result of the judgment, etc. The fourth step is that we compile the information extracted from the algorithm, and we use this second database to feed a second algorithm. This second algorithm interprets new structures of data to further standardize the results and correct any errors. It comes without saying that the more data we extract from the first round, the better the second cleaning process becomes. And finally, this database is accessed by our users who can either perform the full text search or search the judgment through the metadata or algorithm or attributes. And how are we achieving this? Our strategy is to do this work as a nonprofit NGO. Early in the process, we realized that we needed partners first with academia, law firms, corporations, and the judiciary to successfully achieve our goals. Why? Because accessing non-digital judgments can be challenging, time-consuming, and expensive. The only way to successfully achieve our goals is through the collaboration of different stakeholders. For example, one specific hurdle that we face and that I just want to mention to let you know like what we have to go through at some steps is that to access physical judgments, you need a direct permission from the Supreme Court of Justice authorizing you to access a particular court. After you have that authorization, you can go to the tribunal, and during working hours, you can request public officers for folders that contain the judgments. So something similar to what you saw in the first pictures. And that is the information that we have to scan and digitalize. So it can be a manual process, and it can present a lot of hurdles. And this is just one of the many difficulties that we can face in the digitalization process. But the structure of the NGO allows creating partnerships that make this process easier. Therefore, we decided to go that way through an NGO and through a nonprofit. And along the way, we have confirmed that this was the correct choice. We have 4 metrics that allow us to confirm this. First, we have sped up our digitalization process through our partnership with the most important law school in Panama. That's Universidad Católica Santa María la Antigua. And through this partnership, university students can perform their professional practice with us. And the professional practice is a prerequisite for graduation. What they do is that they help on the more manual parts of the process and the digitalization process. We also, now a second metric that we have achieved or that we can measure is that we can access judgments more easily. We partner with lawyer associations who help us obtain paper judgments in a cost-efficient manner by providing us the judgments already scanned or through other means. And now even courts are approaching us to request that we include their judgments on our database because they want to improve their legal research experience. And they want a centralized database where they can access multiple courts' judgments, which doesn't exist at the moment. Third, we launched a beta product at a reduced cost. We have partnered with a developer studio, 8codev, who built our platform. And fourth, that's how we financed our operations. Law firms, international organizations, and even embassies see the value in the work that we're doing because they see that digitalization of judgments improve first legal research, it improves legal certainty, accountability in the judiciary, and creates a new industry or allows the creation of a new industry, the legal tech industry. Our strongest partners at the moment are the ICFJ and the British Embassy in Panama. So up to the moment, what do we have? Well, the first achievement that we have made is that we began digitalization on June 2019. And despite Panama's complete lockdown, which by the way started on March and continues to this day, we have achieved a constant rhythm of including 500 new judgments to our platform per day. We now have 3 different tribunals or courts in our database, which added together amount to 10 complete years of judgments. We have a functional but limited beta version, so it is still not 100% finished, but it is still better than the option that other databases offer. And we plan to launch our first functional version on August 2020. And finally, we have built the algorithm that I will dig in a little bit deeper on further slides, but these are our main achievements to the moment. And who is using Popularis right now? As I mentioned, to the moment we have a beta platform, so we have only beta users, but who are our beta users right now? First, Supreme Court justices that saw an interest and need to improve their legal research experience, and they have requested access to our platform. Second, multiple law firms, prominent law firms in Panama. Third, professors and law students that want to use this in their virtual classes now that the pandemic has changed everything, and they're leveraging our offer for improving their digital classes. And now I will dig a little bit deeper on our algorithm and our database, which is the real added value of Popularis. So we began building our algorithm on March 2019, and now we extract more than 100 attributes from each judgment. This includes the judges, the parties, articles and statutes cited, the subject matter of the judgment, the results of the judgment, and other attributes. And this structure and this algorithm is what will allow us to scale our services, both in the present and in the medium term and in the long term. Currently, we're on what we call step 1 of our algorithm. And what we can produce or do with it is produce reports with statistics related to both the judgment and the judges. Right now, we can first tell you how each judge has decided for the past 5 years in the Supreme Court. We can also tell you what statutes or laws are most commonly cited by the judges and by the court. And third, we can tell you how many decisions does a judge issue per specific time period. And by the end of the year, we'll have a link between judgments related to one case and other cool information extracted from each judgment. Step 2 is a little bit more interesting, and here our research team works with the data science team to detect the particular arguments made by each party in a particular case, and whether that argument was effective before a judge. So that's the second step of our database. And when we use this or mix this with a third step, which is creating a robust database, we can achieve as what we see as the final step or the fourth step, which is predictions regarding the effectiveness of arguments before a particular judge or a particular tribunal. So this is the value that our database and our structure allows. Leveraging technology, leveraging artificial intelligence to make a really interesting tool for lawyers and for practitioners. How are we planning to achieve this? Well, through our team. Our team is composed, well, myself, Monica Crespo, I'm the CEO. Ramon Crespo, he's the CTO. He's in charge of building the algorithms and the data structure and designing the data structure that we use. He's specialized on machine learning and artificial intelligence at UC Berkeley. Gloria Correa, she's the COO. She's in charge of operations of the volunteers and coordinating the relationship with partners. We also have Michelle Mock, Mariel Padilla, and Andrea Rios. They're researchers, and they're in charge of the quality control of the judgments that we publish on our website. And regarding the research, they're the ones in charge of working with the data science team to detect the attributes that are relevant in a particular judgment. I just want to finish with one final thought, and it is that Popularis' work is necessary to change legal research and to create the infrastructure for legal tech. We need this work that Popularis is doing to change what we see on the backside of the slide, to change that reality and move justice and legal research to a more digital era. Without the work that Popularis is doing, no legal tech project that relates to legal research may arise and thrive in the region. So this work is the groundwork for creating the infrastructure required. And yeah, thank you all for listening. And remember, Popularis, we want to improve the quality of justice by making legal research simple and accessible.
Thank you, Monica. I think it was great. And one thing that sometimes in Central America, because we are neighbors with Guatemala as well, sometimes we have the same struggles. So I think that's why Popularis is a great legal tech company that is on the rise on Latin America, which I think I see a great future for him. So that's why I decided to invite Popularis. So thank you again. And now I'm gonna give the word to Federico Ast. Like I told him, I'm very excited because he's very busy sometimes, but he decided to give some of his time. He can tell you all about Kleros. We've been collaborating as well on a specific project right now. But Federico, without any more introduction, I give the word to you as well.
Thank you very much, Mauricio. I'm very happy to be here. Let me see if I can share my screen. 1 second. Okay. It's loading. Can you see it? Good. Great. Well, thank you again for this meetup. It's awesome. I'm very happy to speak to you guys. And I'm going to tell you a bit about what we do at Kleros and more in general, what is a new trend that is starting to emerge at this moment, what we call decentralized justice. As you very well know, so the global economy has changed because of the internet. This creates a lot of people working globally, like providing services from a country to another one. And this is like a growing trend that is going to be more like this in the future. People are going to have contracts with people from every other country across digital jurisdictions. And also another important trend in this time is the rise of course, crowdfunding, and capital also is becoming liquid, and people can finance projects from every part of the world, from different countries, like a guy from the Philippines can fund a project of a team in Buenos Aires. So this global digital world doesn't have a justice system, a forum for resolving disputes efficiently. So just to use an example, let's imagine this woman, Alice, who is in France, is an entrepreneur, and she hires Bob, who is a web developer from Guatemala, for example. And then there is an agreement for him to make a website for her. And then there is a problem, a dispute, because she claims that he didn't comply with what was expected, and he says that he did exactly what was in the contract. So this doesn't have any solution in the current legal traditional system, because you're not going to arbitration or to court in another country for a $500 dispute, of course. So how does Kleros address this problem? So Kleros is a platform that is based on blockchain, where imagine that Alice, when she does an agreement with Bob, she sends funds into escrow smart contract, and they both agree that if there is a dispute in this contract, it's going to be adjudicated by an arbitrator called Kleros, right? So they make an agreement, and then she sends funds in cryptocurrency into the contract, and they both agree voluntarily that Kleros is going to be arbitrator in case something goes wrong here. So something effectively goes wrong, and Kleros is going to send this information about the contract, about the product that was delivered, to a panel of arbitrators who are going to analyze the evidence, and they're going to vote who is right in this dispute. And in this case, it's Alice that wins, and so Kleros tells the smart contract, send the funds back to Alice, and so this solves the problem in a very efficient way, which is not possible to do with traditional tools. So of course, you may be asking, okay, so how do you select the arbitrators, right? Let's say this woman is a designer from Vietnam, and she works in a design company. And when she gets home, she wants to make some extra money on the side by adjudicating disputes about websites in Kleros. And so she, in order to be a jury, she needs to get this token called Pinakion. The name comes from a token that ancient trials in Athens used for selecting the jurors. So this was the Athenian trials had this idea of every citizen being able to participate in the jury, and they had this token that people used to put into an allotment machine to be randomly selected for jury duty. So this is kind of a digital kind of version of that old token called Pinakion. So if you want to be a jury or arbitrator in a Kleros dispute resolution process, you need to get this token, and this gives you the right to be drawn as arbitrator. So Kleros is a multi-purpose system that can be used for lots of different types of dispute in e-commerce, in transportation, in insurance, in finance. So in this case, this woman wants to be an arbitrator into a court of website design. And so other people also put their token into this court. And if you, so this token gives you the right to be drawn as juror. It's like a lottery ticket, right? And now there is going to be a random selection process that's going to pick a number of jurors among all of those who stake the token into the court. And now let's say there are 5 jurors selected. The exact amount can be different in different cases. In this case, we can assume it's 5, others will have 3 or more. So now these guys are going to analyze the evidence, and they're going to see the contract, they are going to see the product that was delivered, and they're going to vote following a number of rules that the court has on who is right about this dispute. And this takes us to another question. So how do you make these guys to behave honestly and to make a good vote? Because different things could happen. Like they could just not pay attention and just vote randomly, anything like just to make sure that collect money fast and leave. They could be bribed. They could just not know about the subject. So the important thing in Kleros for this system to work is that the arbitrators get selected into courts where they have expertise to rule on the case, and also where they have the right incentives to make an honest work. And this is where the fun starts. So This guy is Thomas Schelling. He's an expert in game theory, and he was a Nobel Prize winner 2005. And he's famous for a contribution that is called the focal points, that now this is known as Schelling point in his honor. And it's about how people behave when they have to reach some decision. They have to coordinate with others, but they don't know how others are going to behave, right? So let me show you some example. So in this square, each of you independently have to choose one of the squares. And if you choose the same as the majority, you earn $20, right? In this case, people tend to choose A6 because it looks different. So they think that others will choose that one. And so they just coordinate into that place, even if any other square could be valid, because they all are the same, but people coordinate into that one because it looks special. And also, this example, if you make the same scenario for the decision, so people tend to coordinate into the 1,000 number because it looks special for most people, right? So A6 and 1,000 are the Schelling points in these particular examples. And so this is the way which people choose to coordinate where they have to make a decision in this uncertainty scenario. So now let's put a number of arbitrators who are going to analyze the evidence of the case. They're going to have the incentive of voting like the majority. And if they vote like the majority, they will make money. If they vote differently, they will lose money. So under this scenario for decision, the Schelling point, or the point in which the arbitrators will converge, is going to be the Schelling point and the truth about the dispute. Okay, let that sink in for a moment. The point where arbitrators voting independently about the same case, they're going to converge under the incentive of voting like majority into the truth about the dispute. And then after this, they make the decision. So there is a distribution of tokens. So remember, the arbitrators, to be drawn, they had to put a token into a court, and the token stays locked until the end. And if you vote like the majority, like the guys who are on top in this screen, so you get your token back, and you get a arbitration fee that comes from the losing party. If you vote different from the majority, you lose your token, which is distributed to the guys who voted in the same way, and then you don't get a fee of arbitration, right? And now, of course, what people ask is, okay, but how do you know that these guys are not going to just collude or vote what they think is more popular instead of like just voting what is the real decision or the truth about this dispute? And this is where the game theory starts to become more fun, because Kleros has an appeal system. So let's say that Alice and Bob have dispute between them, and this is going to be solved first by 3 jurors in the first round. The losing party may think that this was unfair because she may think that it was there was a bribe, or they didn't vote honestly, or whatever. She can appeal. So the appeal round is going to have twice as many jurors plus 1. And if she thinks that this new round did not produce a fair decision, she can appeal again and again and again and again and again until there is a final ruling made by a panel of 511 jurors. So remember that when you are a juror, you have to decide how to vote with the majority to have your financial reward. But the majority with which you have to agree is not the majority from your round. You have to agree with the majority of the final round after all the potential appeal round that may happen. So if you are a juror in the first round, what you have to think in order to maximize your economic gain is, how would a potential panel of 511 jurors vote in this dispute in case it was appealed until that last moment? So, and this creates the incentive for each juror in the beginning to vote, to think and to vote what they think would be the community consensus about the dispute they have at hand. Good. So this game theory system, what it does is it simulates a big jury of community members, but with just a small amount of people, which makes it a lot more efficient. And you know, when you put more people to make a decision, the decision tends to be better because of collective intelligence. But this is very expensive because you have to pay 500 euros to make a decision that's going to be like not very affordable. But if you can simulate this decision with just 3 guys, so that takes you to the best of both worlds of efficiency and the right decision. What this amounts to is that users trying to game the system will lose money on average. Like if you like just vote randomly, you are going likely to be like incoherent with the majority, and you're going to lose your tokens and exit the system. And if you vote correctly, because you take your time to make analysis of the evidence, etc., so you will tend to earn money over time because you will collect arbitration fees. So why do we use this very complex system for decisions? Because it's radically more efficient than whatever exists before. Like, you know, ODR is not a new discipline. It's been around since the 1990s. But all that ODR did until now is just take some process that happened offline and put it online with Zoom and make it like 10% more efficient, and which is great because it solves a number of things. But if you want to have a system that is going to be more efficient in the sense of like being able to adjudicate disputes as the little website dispute and lots of other small claims that are starting to happen into the global digital economy, you need something that is radically more efficient. Like you need to do what Wikipedia did to the Britannica, if you want, right? So Kleros is kind of doing to the traditional ODR the same thing that Wikipedia did to Britannica. So the resolution time is going to be like a lot lower, the cost is going to be like much cheaper, and the transparency is going to be very high. Remember, everything happens on the blockchain. So the evidence is secure in blockchain. So everyone will know that no one can tamper with the evidence that was presented by the parties. And also the way in which jurors are selected is so it's stamped on blockchain. So no one can tamper with the jury selection process, not even the founders of the company, because this is visible to everyone that the procedure is perfectly transparent. So what are the use cases for Kleros? Obviously, e-commerce disputes, there are lots of them. You can use Kleros for small IP claims, like some user making a website with like stealing photo from another one without authorization. So these little claims that happen online all the time. And you can also think of disputes like from the future. Well, not from the future, from the present already, like esports. You have esports tournament where there are millions of dollars that are in prizes, and some people cheat, and you need to have some dispute resolution mechanism for this kind of online tournaments. So that's another use case. There are like tons of use cases. I will mention a few more later. And like we think that Kleros is, in this whole transformation of the legal industry, is going to be in a specific place. So we think that the more objective, simple, and lower value disputes, in the end, will be settled by machine learning. Like this is going to be cheaper than Kleros and more effective in the more objective type of disputes. For more subjective and more complex and higher value, we think that arbitration or systems that already work, like the existing systems, are still going to be trusted by parties to handle like $1 million suits. We don't imagine Kleros handling this, but there is lots of use cases in the middle between the machine learning and the traditional resolution systems that we think that can be solved by Kleros and also by other systems for decentralized justice. Of course, this is for now a very early stage technology. This is basically an emerging industry, and Kleros is still very small. It has solved about 200 cases, a bit more now. And the amount of money that was secured by contracts that had Kleros as arbitrator is about 500,000. So this is the current picture of the use. As I told you, very, very early stage. But the results we get are exactly what were predicted by the mathematical models and everything that we did before. So the system works as expected, and now the challenge is to try to scale it to a higher number of use cases. So if you want to get involved, remember Kleros is open source, it's community-driven initiative. The company that develops Kleros is a cooperative. So one excellent way for you to get involved is join the Kleros community Telegram. There you have the, to take a picture and you have the QR code, and I will leave this for 1 second more if you want to take a picture. So this is a great way to get involved and get in touch with other members and to become a juror in cases, etc. If you want to do a deep dive into Kleros, we published this book. It's available on our website, and this explains everything from A to Z, like how the game theory works, what we found in our experiments, what we see as potential use cases. So this book has everything about Kleros. If you want to get more involved, you can join the next batch of our fellowship program. We have a fellowship program that anyone can join to make different types of research regarding how Kleros can be used for different use cases. For example, Dimitri is a lawyer from Russia, and he studied how Kleros interacts with the traditional framework of arbitration from the New York Convention. Abir is a lawyer from India and UK, and he did a research about using Kleros for arbitration in oil and gas disputes. Well, Mauricio, well, he can tell you more about that, but he researched Kleros for dispute resolution in energy disputes in renewable energies, in solar energy. Now we're running with our third batch of the program, and there are different use cases. Alex, he's from Romania, and he's researching how you could use Kleros as a way to predict what a court would potentially rule in a case. Let me see people from Latin America. So Mauricio is from Mexico, and he's researching Kleros as a resolution system for landlord-tenant disputes. There is one guy from Guatemala. Let me see where he is. Where he is, Scott. There are so many now. Paolo, there he is. Paolo is researching Kleros as a way to resolve IP disputes. Well, you can, if you want to join the next stage of the next batch of the fellowship, is going to be open, the application process, in like 2 months. So Kleros is working on this field, this new field called decentralized justice, which is made of like basically 3 pillars. One of them is procedural integrity. So we need to make sure that the procedure of resolution is going to be like not going to be tampered with, and this is why blockchain is important, right? Because if Kleros someday becomes a very important resolution system, you will want that people are going to try to tamper with it, and you want it to be built on very secure technology, and this is why blockchain is useful. Second innovation coming from this field is economic incentives. As you have seen, Kleros is a very different approach to resolution if you compare it to traditional procedures in courts or arbitration, because it relies on the economic incentives to create behavior, that desirable behavior in the jurors. And also decentralized justice systems claim to produce fair decisions. So this is the third main pillar of this new field. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm open to your questions.
Thank you, Federico, and Monica as well. I think we're perfectly on time, so we have 15 minutes for a Q&A. I know sometimes people can be shy about asking questions, but if someone has a question, go ahead. Both Monica and Federico are open to answer any questions that you might have.
I actually have a question for Monica.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi. So I was just curious about Panama. Are there non-for-profit organizations that do what you do already?
No.
Oh.
And even the government, it is not a priority. So we think that this is something that the government should do, actually make judgments that are born digital in the digital era, but it's not a priority, and it's not a job performed by any NGO or law firm. And the funny thing is that when I talk about the project and start to sponsor the project, many lawyers and law firms answer saying like, yeah, I thought about this multiple times. So it is a real problem, but nobody's doing anything about it. So that's where Popularis comes in.
That's awesome.
I had a question for Monica as well. So Monica, are you able to do this work full time, or how do you balance your different roles?
So I'm doing this role part-time. Half of our team is working full-time, but we're leveraging, for example, I work at a law firm, so I'm leveraging my contacts in the law firm to sponsor the project and also get new contacts both with new law firms and lawyer associations. So they're both coordinated, and as a lawyer on a law firm and working on litigation and arbitration cases, I see on the day-to-day the inefficiencies, and I get feedback from users from the beta users on a constant rate. So that's the benefit of doing both of this work at the same time. And by leveraging also the volunteer works with the universities, it also puts most of the manual work on the hands of volunteers, and then we have a checking process that all the work is done well, as I mentioned, with our researchers. But most of our process are automated, so it's very reliant on technology. So yeah, that's how we do it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Federico, I have a question for you. Although I think it's unvalid because we always speak on a regular basis. But one of the things that I wonder about is, how are you seeing a trend that Kleros is becoming more of a mainstream ODR mechanism, or how has been, for example, the reception right now with the mainstream world of ODR? You mentioned because you're creating new avenues of efficiencies that sometimes we just want to take the local physical courts, use it in Zoom or YouTube, and that's ODR. But you're creating a different model that is based on economic principles, which I really like. So how in the transition into more of the mainstream world of ODR and dispute resolutions in general?
Look, Kleros was born in 2017, but I've been working on decentralized justice kind of things for like now for like 5 years. And we went from a moment where like people say like you are completely crazy, to a moment that people say, yeah, you are crazy, to a moment that last week there was the first contract that between like two people like in different countries like Argentina and Peru, and having Kleros as arbitrator. So last week people are already starting to use this because they see it as a solution. It took a lot of like evangelizing to reach this point, and it takes a lot. So you know how much we do of talks. The fellowship program is a way for people to get involved and to see how this works. Of course, this is going to it creates lots of resistance in lawyers because it's so different. It's radically different from what people are used to. But in some way, like I use the example of Wikipedia because the analogy is very good. Like when Wikipedia started, like people said that this is a crazy idea. Like Britannica already knows how to do an encyclopedia. You have an editor who selects writers, and they know they are experts, and they write and they do an encyclopedia. And then Wikipedia did this thing of, yeah, how can you use anonymous people from the internet who you don't know if they are experts, just allow them to edit an encyclopedia? This is going to be a very bad product. Well, we know how this ended. Kind of what Kleros does is based on the same principles. Like you go from, the court and the arbitrator who is an expert and knows, and well, if you find the right incentives for people to collaborate in the right way, and because they have the right incentive, this can work, and it does work because we use it and it works. So of course, we don't claim that this is going to be used for everything. This is not going to replace like national courts or anything. But for the type of use cases that we aim, there is no other way really to solve them, because the type of disputes that the digital world brought us are just not solvable by ODR as we know it, as like Zoom-enabled courts, basically.
Actually have a question to go off of that. So I'm kind of curious how you get people to use your platform. Do you guys have, or do the clients already have it in a contract where they select Kleros as the arbitrator, or do they find you somehow online?
There are different ways in which this can work. At this moment, yeah, as you say, you can put a contract with Kleros as an arbitrator, as if it was an arbitration institution. But also, think, for example, an e-commerce website or a service delivery website for like Upwork, if you want. Like, they could basically outsource the dispute resolution process to Kleros and receive like fair rulings. So the customer, so the user of the platform, of the e-commerce platform or the service platform, would not like really know he's interacting with Kleros. For him, he would be just using the platform, the e-commerce platform, and Kleros works like silently in the background. So the users that do know that they are using Kleros are the jurors, because they are specialized in resolving disputes. But for the point of view of the user, of the freelancer or the buyer seller of the e-commerce platform, there's no need for them even to interact with Kleros.
So it's a white label type solution.
Yeah, yeah.
Federico, could you talk about some of the use cases?
Someone else? Oh, right.
Someone else.
The use cases. Yeah. So the use cases now are mostly the most used one now is kind of a compliance use case. So, and of course, this being born in the crypto industry, most of the use cases now are still within the crypto industry and crypto use cases. So in the blockchain industry, there are like exchanges where people can buy and sell tokens. And there is always a kind of a very non-transparent way in which these exchanges select which tokens to list into the platform, because of, well, they charge projects. So the first use cases that had quite some traction of Kleros is a project where people could submit the token they wanted to list in an exchange. It's called Edfinex. It's a crypto exchange. And then the community of jurors decided whether the token complied with the rules to be listed or not into the exchange. So it was kind of a dispute between some guy who says, yes, this has to be listed, and this guy who says, no, this doesn't comply. And there was like this panel deciding whether it complied or not with the rules. So that's the main use case now. Then another important use case that we are going to push soon is for translations. As you know, different people have to do lots of different translation work on the internet. And so in this platform, you can like ask for a translator to do some work for you. And then if there is a dispute between you and the contractor, so because you think the quality was not good enough, so there's going to be a panel to resolve the type of the dispute. So these are the main use cases. And also, as I mentioned before, like kind of website quality kind of use case.
So let's say that I wanted to use Kleros in our contracts with clients, or in some other contract type situation. How could I use that? What's the ease of onboarding to using this platform?
At this moment, you would have, so in your contracts, you probably now have some clause designating an arbitration like seat in case there's a dispute. Okay, you could put there, okay, the arbitration institution is going to be Kleros, and so if there is a contract and everybody is happy, so nothing happens. So the contract gets executed and Kleros is not even called, and you don't have to pay anyone, right? So everything goes right. If there is a dispute, the parties in the contract will have to like fill in a platform. Okay, this is the claim I have, and this is the what I think what happened, and these are the files I can. This is the screenshot or whatever, and the other party will go in to send their version, and then the jury are going to see this evidence, and they're going to vote, and they're going to decide who is right about this. So you can do this tomorrow if you want. To contact me, and I can tell you more about how to do it. But this works.
Okay, so I could. So there's some way to work with you and to like just get something set up where if there's a dispute, we can just go to a website, put in our information, and then Kleros handles it.
Yeah.
So how do people pay for it then? Let's say I want to do that and I had a dispute with a client. Who pays? How does that work?
If you are like a crypto project, that depends. If you're a crypto project, there is one way to do it where you can like send the payment to an escrow account in crypto, as I explained before, and then everything happens in crypto. But let's say you are not a crypto, you don't know how to use crypto, or you don't want, so you just, for example, you could use your credit card. So you have the dispute, and you and the other party put some credit card, like when you rent a car, you know, that you have to put your deposit in the credit card, and then Kleros, the company, the cooperative, Kleros is going to handle everything related to the part of the blockchain, so you don't have to even know about blockchain things. This is going to be resolved, and then you get a decision, right? And then it's just as a service if you want, and then like the losing party is going to like get the charge, the credit card, and the winning party gets the money back, basically.
I see. Okay.
Great. I don't know if anyone has any more questions. If not, I think it has been one of the sharpest meetups that we are ending right on time. I don't see anyone asking any more questions, but I don't know if someone, Ramon, I don't know.
I have a last question.
Go ahead.
The question is for Federico. Honestly, congratulations about the project. It's super interesting, and I'm a big fan of game theory. So the use case of game theory, I think, it's super good. My specific question is a small concern that I have, and it's with a platform this innovative and dealing with such a touchy subject as arbitrage. It seems like adaptation of the platform is one of the biggest hurdles. And my specific question is, has it been adapted by a specific geography? Have you seen like, okay, most of the use cases or the people that has used this platform, they're from the Bay Area, for example. But we had a big issue with, you know, tapping the market in Europe, or have you seen something like this?
So for now, the community that is involved more in the platform and the development is, of course, crypto users, because they already come from the blockchain. They know how this works. But the thing is that these people are not from specific geographic location. Like the company in particular, if you see the team, we are 16 people. Let me tell you where we are. But I'm in Buenos Aires. My co-founder Clement he's French, but he's in Portugal. We have people in the US. Actually, one of them, our first team member after the founders, is from Denver. Then we have a researcher who is a mathematician from the University of Toronto. He's in Montreal, and like all the game theory that you see in Kleros, like we have a guy who like works full time in optimizing the incentive system, making sure that this cannot be tampered with. So he's in Canada. We have people in Serbia, but one is from Scotland but lives in Serbia. And we have a designer in Austria. We have in Brazil. We have people in Singapore, Norway, Argentina. There is a community. So this is, I wouldn't say that this is geographically limited. I would say that for now, it's more or less limited to people who already were into the crypto world. But this also is of great interest to everyone who cares about justice inclusion, because who is this going to help more? Like the people who are in the emerging economies. Because now if you want to offer your services to the world and you are in Argentina, Guatemala, Zimbabwe, or anywhere, so you usually don't get hired because the guy who is in the potential customer, he doesn't know if you're going to like deliver what you promise. And so your option is like just go to like a kind of Upwork platform that has a system for resolution, but they charge you like 20% of the work you do, and that's a lot of money. So this is going to provide kind of a dispute resolution governance service, which is most likely going to benefit people from the emerging world, because they're going to be able to offer their work to the world. So this is early stage now, but I think that this has lots of potential, especially in the emerging economies.
Great, thank you. And that brings us to 5 p.m. sharp. So Monica and Federico, thank you again. I just want to make a quick, let's say, announcement with Federico. We're creating also a guilds program for Kleros that we're going to be expanding more and more, and we're going to be collaborating for the future. So I see great things for both Kleros and Popularis. That's why I decided to invite you guys. Thank you, Monica and Federico again. And thank you everyone that was in this virtual meetup. I think it went great. So thank you everyone, and we'll see you to the next one.
Thanks, Mauricio, and thanks everybody. That was awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.